what we're going to do is I've got a short presentation. I'll stay on for as long as you need me to, but we can just have a Q&A and I'll answer any questions that you may have. Unfortunately, we never got a chance to do this at the start of the year, but I think it's something that will hopefully give you not only some insight, but some real confidence and hopefully some reassurance that we're not all crazy and we're actually going in the right direction. We're gonna walk through this. It's gonna take about 15 minutes, but I'm just gonna go through kind of why we did this, how we do things, and the thing that I'm really excited about is just the results that we're seeing now. Not only, from what you guys have done over the last 8 seasons we've been doing this here in Calgary. We've started to really make some meaningful strides, and we got a bunch of people jumping in here, which is great. So we're going to get into this. So I'll give you a little bit background on me. Been married for 24 years. Thankfully, I got married in 2000, which makes it really easy for me to figure out how long I've been married. But got 4 kids. I've been coaching for as long as I can remember. And the last 15 years, I've been really specializing on human performance, injury prevention, and that kind of led me into everything that you can kind of see in AMP and some of the dynamics. But I've been at this for a while now, and it's getting more enjoyable if that's possible. But every single year, I seem to learn more, whether that's learning from people in sports, in hockey, in military. I seem to find myself in some pretty interesting places, but this one picture is when I was actually shooting a tank up in Wainwright, Alberta. But I haven't shot many guns in my life, but shooting a tank, a Leopard, was really kind of interesting, I gotta tell you. The people behind me, my whole group, we've got a couple of gentlemen here that don't spend a lot on shampoo. There's Dr. Norris on the left. Steve was a mentor of mine. He was actually my strength and conditioning coach when I was with the Team Canada, and he was doing things 30 years ago that they're doing now, but we wanted to kill him when we were playing for him. But he's consults with the PGA Tour, Hockey Canada, USA Hockey, probably 6 different IOC groups. He's one of the smartest gentlemen that I've ever met, but absolutely massively protective of kids and youth development. Also helped Michelle Obama with her obesity campaign, structuring that. Was one of the authors in long-term athletic development. And thankfully, just a good friend of mine. Top right there is Kent Hughes, who's a guy that I grew up with. Kent and I have known each other since grade 1. And he's an absolute lunatic as well, but one of the smarter guys I've ever met. And he's doing a pretty good job there in Montreal, but someone that really I think is going to have a lot of success there. The last gentleman that actually has his hair still is Captain Tom Chavey. Tom is one of the most humble people you'll ever meet. He actually spent a weekend with me about 3 months ago, and my mom, who lives a couple doors down from me, at the end of it, after she left, she was like, "Oh, Tom's a nice guy. What does he do?" So Tom retired as the chief operating officer of U.S. Special Ops Command. So he was in charge of the entire U.S. Special Ops military. He was a commander, a Navy SEAL commander for 28 years, SEAL Team 5, SEAL Team 8. He ran BUDS training for 7 years. He's just an absolute incredible human being when it comes to leadership and culture, and the military does a great job of that, bringing people in from all different backgrounds and parts of the country, and really having them come together as one. I've learned so much from these 3 guys and still continue to, but a great group of people behind this. Our coaches council, we're really lucky here in Calgary. We've got a pretty good alumni group. We have almost like a coaching lineup here in Calgary that would rival most NHL teams. And we seem to get more and more right now. We've got probably 4 guys that are active on the Flames as well. And we just continue to get more and more people involved in this. And hopefully, it'll have the same effect up there. But all that being said, this isn't just me. There's a lot of really amazing people that have come together, and the whole mission was just making the game better for kids and making it safer. So the three biggest reasons, and I'm not sure if you guys have ever seen the movie Kicking and Screaming. If you haven't, highly recommend you rent that one. One of my favorite movies of all time. But I was kind of blown away, and I've gone through hockey now, I would say 4 times. Once as a player, then after I retired, I was a director and worked with a lot of different programs, actually in Chicago. Then I came up and I had kids, and now my kids have all aged out, and I'm into like my 4th phase of this. But it never stops to amaze me to see crazy parents. And there's not many, and thankfully there's none on the call. I know that, but there are some lunatics out there, and we did a funny presentation that was called Parents Are Number One. And it was parents are the number one reason that referees leave the game, number one reason coaches leave the game, the number one reason that players leave the game. They're the biggest detriment. And not you guys. I'm talking about, I'm sure, but there's 5% of parents that are just crazy. And I really like to think that this program is kind of stepping up and standing up to those bullies as well. But a lot of adults acting like children, and there's some great levels of maturity that somehow evolve, from children just screaming and yelling when they need something, to adolescents when they'll negotiate, they'll do some good things as long as there's something that comes back. And then there's the adult status where you're doing the right thing just because it's the right thing to do. And I mean this respectfully because I'm one of the most immature people out there, but there's not a lot of adults up there. There's a lot of grown-up adolescents, but there's not a lot of adults. And our program is absolutely geared at bringing adults together to the table that know the right thing to do for kids. So I went to an engineering school, and I really like numbers, and I like hard facts. And when we first started this thing out, as you guys know, as parents, everything changes when you have kids. But I started diving into this and seeing some of the numbers where right now across the country, 70% of our kids are dropping out of sports by the time they're 13. If you guys were looking for a high school that was only graduating 30% of the kids, that would be shut down. If youth sports was a high school, it would literally not operate. That's a horrible stat. And this traditional method of we'll call it development. I don't think it is development. I think there's a lot of selection. I think the tryouts, I think the wins and losses, it's all outcome based and selection based rather than development wise, but the numbers aren't good. And that's at the lower levels. And there's been articles on this. The last one that I pulled up was just in June of 2024, but just there's not a lot of people in Canada, and we thank God last week we won that game. That was so much fun. But we really are not in a good state of hockey, and participation rates are massively down. This is actually a chart of, in my lifetime, I kind of highlighted my 50 years I've been on this planet, but the amount of NHL, Canadian-born NHLers, has been on this massive decline for year after year after year. And yet, because unfortunately we win some big games, like last Thursday was unbelievable, but everyone thinks we're the best, and we're on a path to absolute nowhere right now. And I'm a pretty competitive person, having the honor to play for the Canadian Olympic team and even being captain of that team was one of the greatest honors. And I'm pretty competitive. And I know the NHL in the next 3 years is saying the number of US-born players are going to eclipse Canada. We're losing our sport every friggin' day, and we just continue to do the same thing that we did back in 1970, and we think that we're going to be okay, and it's just not going to happen to us, and that's 100% wrong. And the numbers don't lie. It's really bad. So my wife, who hopefully you guys will meet at some point, was wonderful, because after 2 years of playing full ice hockey with our 5 and 6 year olds here in Calgary, I was ready to lose my mind. I was that lunatic parent, but I like to think on the other way, because I was just we got to develop these kids. We got to teach them how to skate. Anyway, my amazing wife was just listen, can you please 2 things, either step up or shut up. but I can't take you anymore. Like one of the two. So that's when we're like, she was right, which seems to happen quite often. But yeah, so I was like, you know what? If we're going to do this, we're going to do something completely different. And I'm going to tap into all these resources, all these amazing people that have come into my life. And we're going to build the best STEM program, not just in Calgary or this little area. We're going to build one of the best in the world. So we started doing things very differently. The hockey schedule, and it's a lot better for you guys. Here in Calgary, sheer chaos, like changes all the time, different locations. It was really tough, and I've got 4 kids, so we kind of live and die by our schedule, but the experience here was just not even close. The thing that's really interesting about what we've done too, and you guys are proving this, but the solution is actually pretty easy. It's just not training 7-year-olds like 17-year-olds, really, when it boils down to it. But when you build sports for kids, it's amazing what happens. And this is kind of the premise that we started with. But as you saw from our military buddy, Captain Fabi, culture was the first thing. Like, we had to change the culture. I found it was really toxic for parents. I found it was toxic for kids. I found it was toxic for referees. And that has to change with the culture. So we started with this. The acronym is Accelerated Multi-Sport Pathway. We love symbols. We love the shield, what that represents. The hockey stick is like a spear. When you get into the military and law enforcement, like, your shield is there protecting everyone. Your sword is going into battle. But we are really fighting for, in my mind, like those numbers. We got to go to war here on this thing. We got to do something different. So our principles, our main ones are having fun, shockingly, with youth sports. And again, please remember, this is like 4 to 12 years old that we're specializing on. Family balance, having set schedules. We never really have altered for that. We always go kind of training days. We'll space it out, but set schedules, set locations. The other one, moral character. So I'm sure you've heard of the sports teach character, and I would say that there's the character to get back up after you've been knocked down. Absolutely, that's been in sports. The resilience component all day long, but the moral character of actually being a good human and a good teammate, I just find is bankrupt. And hockey's still one of the better sports, but there's just not a lot of teaching great principles and how to be great teammates and great leaders in the community, and just building great people. The multi-sport development, obviously a big piece, and just being able to play these sports forever, not dropping out when you're 13. You live above the line, that whole piece. We want to make something really easy. Just being above the line is a battle, but that really boils down to just being a warrior, being accountable, being a great teammate, having respect, all those great things. And below the line is just whining and complaining all the time, looking for problems, being a whiner. So we want to build warriors. And structure-wise, this, I'm going to give you a little bit of insight, and the coaches have done a great job of this, but we've really boiled down, I would say, 30% of our 30 years of coaching into 3 practices. And that these are, from a character development standpoint, we want to start to implement some of the teachings there, because we can't just let this stuff happen by accident. Like having a warrior mindset, having a growth mindset, being champions at home, being champions in the community, and then being great teammates. Those things are going to be repeated time and time again. Skating is going to be part of it, stick handling, passing, player safety, which I'll get into next. And for you guys that may have seen me in the summer, like, one of the first things we did in skating was knocking the kids down. So another reason that we actually started this program, and I didn't get into it at the start of the slide, but I can tell it to you guys, is they took hitting out of hockey until bantam. And I was just blown away on that decision. And I mean it respectfully, because it's tough when you're dealing with a country as big as ours and volunteers all over the place. And but I just find that if you teach it properly, you can really have some great results that come out of it. But building it into, falling and playing on the wall and protecting yourself, it's really important. And then using small area games to teach is an amazing way of doing things. Our competition model, because we were banned here in Alberta when we started our program, so we couldn't play anyone. So we built out these tournaments. We actually go up to Edmonton, which I'd love for you guys to actually join us in next year. And we've talked about this a little bit. But we just play 3-on-3. We have a Star Wars Classic, which is hilarious. We actually have some characters that show up and they're a riot, but we have different jerseys, different teams. We typically have 6 teams at every 4 or 6 teams at every division, and we only give out 1 trophy. We don't give a 2nd place, 3rd place, 4th, 5th, or 6th, just 1. And as parents, and we do have kids coming unglued and crying all the time when they don't win, which is hilarious. And it's not that I'm sadistic or mean or things like that. I just love the fact that kids have to come together and work together to be successful. And I think if you can't deal with losing in like a 3-on-3 Star Wars tournament, we're probably not doing our job as parents to really prepare them for real life issues that are definitely going to come along. So using sports as that tool is amazing. We always do an ODR too, which is a ton of fun just to get the kids outside. I know that was actually the entire program for Hazelton for a while until the new facility was built. So, and then why this matters. So when we first started this thing, we really wanted to flip that 70-30. We wanted to keep 70% of the kids involved in sports so they weren't dropping out. That was going to be our mission. So the thing that I'm most proud of, there's all this, but we're at like a 92% retention rate right now with kids moving on to play the game at 13. And you guys know as parents that obviously the more kids we have engaged in sports, the healthier they're going to be, the healthier the community is going to be. And, whether it's a lot of people think what we do, it's really funny because we get some people like, it's too elite what you're doing. And other people like, it's too basic what you're doing. Is that really for recreational players or is it for high performance players? And we're like, yes, it is. It's for all of them. And learning how to build a great base of, playing sports and doing the multi-sport and building in this physical literacy is so important for kids. But it is how you build great athletes. And it's not just athletes that are going to play professionally or Olympic or Paralympic. It's athletes that are going to be playing and hopefully coaching as they get older. So we've really kind of crushed that piece just on the participation rate, which was amazing. And a lot of that comes from giving people a better environment to learn the game and be successful at the game. But the reason that we use the structure that we do, and we get a lot of people too, like, well, my kid's 11 now, he's too big for cross ice. And I'm like, we did this at the NHL level and we do it. And we have the Flames practice where we are and the Wranglers, they play 3-on-3 cross ice all the time. And it's one of the best environments because everything is accelerated. You got to think faster, move faster, shoot quicker, and everybody's engaged in the play. So there's really, again, I like numbers. I don't like opinions, but the numbers are amazing. And we've done stats on it. The NHL has done stats on it. USA Hockey has done stats on it. The best example I have is actually a goalie dad who came to us, and I thought we were going to have an issue because we really don't, we keep hockey issues, I would say, to the kids and the coaches, and life issues to the parents and the leadership group. But this guy was coming to me with a cell phone, and we buzz every minute, so I didn't know what he was really coming to. And he was like, listen, we played on a team last year. We're the top team in our division. His son's a goalie. He's like, we were getting maybe 15, even some games 10 shots against us. And he's like, my son had 270 shots against him today. And he was like, I've never seen anything like this. And this is part of the beauty of this structure too, because you don't need to be on the ice 7 days a week. And when kids are growing, especially in that 4 to 12 window, they shouldn't be on the ice 7 days a week. They shouldn't be on the ice 12 months of the year. Like, as much as we think it's natural for us in Canada to skate, it is not natural. Like, your hips are not meant to move like that. And when you have kids in their most explosive growth stages that are on the ice 12 months of the year, and I know that's not an issue for you guys, and this is why I love your whole community so much, but it's unbelievable. Like, we're seeing at the sports med clinic here, we're seeing kids getting hip surgeries at like 12 and 13 years old because they've been on the ice every single year through all these different growth stages. And it's absolutely like, I look at it as a form of child abuse. Like, that's how far off I am on it. But the results are amazing. The development's incredible. And it's just a lot of fun when you touch the puck. I can tell you that as a stay-at-home defenseman. The multi-sport development, as much as that might be using sports to play games, but learning physical literacy and functional movement is massive, not just for being a great athlete, but it's amazing for injury prevention. So there's really a lot of different reasons that we're doing the multi-sport, which is talked about a lot, but there's not a lot of programs that are actually, like, not a lot of basketball programs that teach hockey or lacrosse programs that teach wrestling. We really come at this with a high level of collaboration and commitment to the kids, because we know it's the right thing to do for the kids, which is what kids sports should be about. This is the last one, and this is, oddly enough, my day job is actually, I have a biomedical engineering lab, and we do human performance injury prevention. We've got some amazing research coming out in May that I've been working on for 15 years. But everything we do is research-based. And the really exciting thing is, again, we teach angling. So we don't really call it hitting, but we hit. It's a contact sport. But we don't teach ripping people in half, if that makes any sense. Like, we want to teach body contact. We want to teach the skills to keep kids adept in their sport. But the really cool thing is, after 8 seasons now, we work with a sports med group right on campus there. We've had 1 concussion in 8 seasons, and we've had no broken bones. And I'd like to say that that's just one thing that we do, but it's not. It's all the things that we talked about. It's the rest and recovery. It's the multi-sport development. It's going, half ice instead of full 200 feet and tripping and falling into the boards, or having someone trip and fall into you. And then it's having the skills to actually, be able to skate and wide track and move around the ice properly. But I can tell you that the results that we're having with this thing are incredible. And this is a sensitive area for me, because my career ended after 6 major concussions and probably, I don't know how many 100 minor ones. But the player safety standpoint is incredible. The player retention standpoint is incredible. And the player development is incredible. And those are 3 real key areas that we've hammered in on. And gosh, it is so exciting to be part of this. But now to see you guys and where you're at, this is the next piece that where it becomes bigger than hockey. And Roger was kind enough to walk me around and go to Longhouse. We went down, and he was like, an interesting thing about our community that a lot of people don't realize is, that expression, the low man on the totem pole, it's not from us. That's not even close. Like, the low man on the totem pole is actually the most important. And what you guys are doing now with AMP, especially in your community, in my humble opinion, is really creating that base of the totem pole. It's the base and foundation for these kids to become great, not just great athletes or great hockey players, but great athletes, active in the community, healthy, good teammates, and committed to each other. Where, the job that you guys have done even this year, and I don't know if you guys have even realized this, but over the next couple of years, the more that this continues, and the more that you support this thing, and the more that kids that get involved, and the easier we can make it for you guys as parents and board members and coaches, the more people we're going to have come together, and it's only going to build the community even stronger. And not only that, but you guys are going to end up being these role models for all these other communities on how to do this thing. And I got to tell you, from my standpoint, and again, I've been working with kids and communities for 30 years. I've never seen anything like Hazelton, and it just warmed my heart seeing the amount of girls and boys, the amount of mixed teams that you have, and they were just kids like you guys, and that doesn't come from kids because it comes from the parents. And I got to tell you, the job that you're doing with your kids and how quickly the coaches were able to jump on this and implement it. Like we came out there really for, a couple-day camp, and seeing the buy-in and the commitment from the leadership group, from the coaches that are absolutely 100% dedicated to the kids is amazing. And I know there's times where you're probably scratching your head thinking, what the heck are we doing here? But hopefully this gives you some insight on what the heck we're doing here, because it's actually groundbreaking. And it's so important right now because there are so many kids being left behind. There's so many kids that are inactive, that are not doing anything. They're not part of a team. They're not part of a community. And gosh, that alone, whether it is hockey or any other sport, is just so important for kids and their development. Because as you guys know, physical health and mental health go hand in hand. And those are both, kids are just in a really tough spot right now. And the more support that we can give them, the better. But building that base is so important. And now what we're talking about now, and hopefully this is going to be something you guys are going to be interested in, but we're trying to implement this even for lacrosse in the spring. And I know Roger and Jody, and we're trying to get some funding in place to be able to offer a 3-on-3 lacrosse program in the spring, which would just be amazing. And again, new sport. We'd still have the multi-sport on the weekends, but set schedules, set times. And then the summertime, we don't really do anything because and especially where you guys live, oh my gosh, it's one of the nicest places in the world. Like kids need to be outside. They should be out hunting, fishing on the river. There's no way they should be anywhere near a hockey rink. And we get asked that all the time. It's like, what do you guys do? Do you ever do any summer camps? Like, heck no, never. We never will. It's not part of our world. We want to actually have kids develop, and the area that you guys are in is so unique. Oh my God, the fresh air, the mountains, the water, everything else. You should have some of the healthiest, most crazy warrior kids on the planet where you guys live. I wish we could be there, but anyway, that's all we said. Steve Norris has jumped on the call, and Steve, thank you for coming on and joining us. It's always great to have you. We kind of went through the whole presentation already, but I'd love to get your insight just quickly on, some of the things that you've seen, and why this program is so important, especially for the community there. I'll stop sharing too.
Okay, first off, let's dispense with the fact that I've got a funny accent. I've lived in Canada for a long time, since January 1990. I actually came to Alberta to go to grad school up the road. I'm actually in Calgary at the moment, at the University of Alberta in Edmonton. And I'm a sports scientist. Physiology is my PhD, and I'm a specialist in altitude. And I was brought to Calgary in '95 as the Director of Sport Physiology and Strategic Planning for Canada's Winter Olympic Sports. And I had the great honor then to go through all the way from Salt Lake City Olympics through to Pyeongchang, with some brief secondments to some other places. I built the building that I'm sitting in right now here at Winsport, and those type of things. What's that going? I just wanted to say that although I spent the whole of my main part of my career in performance sport, so the national teams, professional sport. In fact, I've just been here meeting the coaches of the Calgary Wild women's soccer team, one of the new 6 professional female soccer teams in Canada, which will start their first league games in April. And we were just planning out the next few weeks to the start of that game. I'm deeply interested in what we're doing or not doing with our children and youth. And so, for my first 4 years in Calgary in the late 90s there, I used to sit here in my ivory tower at the University of Calgary and Winsport, and wonder where on earth were Canada's national team athletes coming from in the next generation. Because what I saw was early teenage, mid-teenage, late teenage kids that were very, very poor athletes and not very good at their sport either. Okay. And so I was really concerned about that. So I and a handful, literally a handful of others, got together, looked at all the sort of research in the area of child and youth development through to young adulthood, and we wrote a very pop science document called Canadian Sport for Life. This was back in about 2005. It grew and was this massive snowball to become Sport for Life and LTAD, the Long-Term Athlete Development Program, which all 52 sports in Canada then produce their own sort of version of that. And in and amongst this, I recognized some of the massive challenges that were happening. One, the demise of physical education in our schools from the youngest years all through elementary and then into junior and senior high schools. The fact that we would put our most precious resource, typically our 5-year-olds to our 15-year-olds, in the hands of the least qualified, least paid, and least experienced coaches. Usually parents, and so therefore they've got a Achilles heel of being, emotionally attached to these little youngsters, and the fact that, for the most part, I've not met many parents that don't want to do the best thing for their kids, but they just don't know. And they also take a very short-term view. They want to know about this season. They usually are doing programs that are totally designed around some kind of seasonal competition calendar, usually a meaningless calendar, because I can tell you, from someone like me, whose job description says pretty clearly that I am measured on Olympic medals, World Championship medals, and World Cup medals. End of story. 50% of my evaluation, even though I'm several degrees of freedom away from actually the activity. I don't care. I don't care who wins at 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. There is no aspect of an 8-year-old champion or a 16-year-old champion. These are redundant concepts. You know what I do? If I go to a junior nationals, I look often for the kids that aren't winning but are close, who also aren't training like idiots. They're not training like Olympians at age 12. Their parents aren't spending $20,000 to $50,000 on their children, thinking they're doing the right thing and doing absolutely everything and becoming very clear early specialization experts. The problem with that is the more you focus at those young ages, you actually exclude everything else. And people forget that. They think, oh, I'm going to do all this hockey. Then what happened to everything else they could have been doing, including all their schoolwork? But what happened to swimming and riding a bike and playing other games and doing all these other things? So it's misnomer. The problem has been in the last 40 years that child sport and youth sport has been ever increasingly professionalized. And there are people that make very fine livings on doing the wrong thing for children, fundamentally. And you're going to have a good time. You're going to go to the hotel with a slide and a pool, and the parents are going to have a few bevies on a Saturday night and have wonderful time and all this type of stuff. But don't kid yourself that you're really doing the best things for your children. You're not. And it's a tough message. And I've looked after Team Canada, men, women, and sledge hockey for 6 Olympic cycles. And I've even been sent out by Hockey Canada to give talks, in smaller places. And I've literally had rotten fruit thrown at me, for saying this stuff. I remember doing my very first ever talk, and I was an idiot. I had my English accent, and I thought I'm going to look nice. So I put on a sports jacket and a tie. I went out to this arena in Airdrie, Alberta, and I talked about, doing the right thing. The hallmark of a great coach of 8-year-olds is to actually get them ready to be 9. The hallmark of a great coach of 15-year-olds is to get them ready to be 16. Not that they're going to play in the NHL or something necessarily. They might, but the odds are, if you look at the Greater Toronto Hockey League, the actual stats are coming out of Pee Wee, roughly in the region of 0.00001% play one game in the NHL. Okay, so don't even tell me you're in the game of actually beating the odds. You might as well just put all your money into Lotto each week, or Lotto Plus, because you have better chance. Okay, and then maybe what you should do is buy a team and put your kid on that, which, by the way, unfortunately, is actually happening at the lower grades, but it doesn't guarantee anything. So the key thing is, if you really want to do the best job for children, really think about things, and certainly be seasonal. That's why we seasons. Do stuff indoors, do outside stuff. I sat on a committee for USA Hockey about 10 years ago, and it was me, Igor Larionov, who I have a great deal of respect for. And he told me that in Denver, he had actually pulled his kid out of Pee Wee hockey because they were absolute nutcases. And when he was growing up in the Soviet Union, he played hockey in the winter months when it was frozen outside. And when he came home from school, sure enough, his mum would let him go and play on the rink with all ages and all types and sizes of different players before supper. Then he'd come in and have supper, do his homework, and then if it wasn't too late, maybe he could go out. But when the ice melted, they played soccer and handball, and they went for a run, and they did all these other things through the summer months. And that's one of the greatest players on the planet, just as an example, And so what am I trying to tell you is that there are huge resources about doing the right thing. And I'm going to end up with one glaring example for you of what I'm talking about. As a parent, you all understand grade school. You send a kid, grade 1, okay? And if they work at it, they're going to go all the way through to grade 12. First off, immediately that tells you, holy crap, pardon my language, it takes a long time, 12 years. The next thing is each grade is taught by a fully qualified instructor, aka the coach, teaching them, if you're in grade 1, a curriculum that is suited and built for grade 1ers, right? And the assessment, aka competition, aka the exam, is appropriate for grade 1. Grade 1 doesn't look like grade 5. Grade 5 doesn't look like grade 10. Grade 10 doesn't look like grade 12, etc., etc. They build on each other sequentially. The key thing is at every level, there is someone that understands that age group and their goal of getting those kids ready for the next age group. And even the grade 12 teachers are getting them ready for the next stage of their life, whether it's going on into post-secondary, getting a job, going to trade school, whatever the hell it is. But they've given them a rich building, and it's come. And the competition, the exams have changed to become more serious as they've aged, but they're not playing the Stanley Cup equivalent of academia in grade 3, as we expect. And the other problem, if you look at things like hockey, is the competition calendar is nuts. The practice to game ratio, you would not accept. It would be a little bit like, I'm going to teach you to play the piano this semester, okay? You're only going to have one lesson a week, okay? And for the first 5 lessons, all you can do is look at the piano. You can't do anything else. You can just look at it. But every Saturday, you're going to have to play a recital in front of a screaming horde of adults, okay, who are, by the way, going to tell you how to play the piano, even though they can't, okay? Then you move on to the next 5 lessons. You can open the lid, and we will allow you once a week to play middle C. Okay. Oh, but also still every Saturday you got a recital. Oh, and I'm going to hand you week 10, I don't know, Rachmaninoff's piano concerto to play. And we're still going to scream at you and tell you what you're doing wrong. And just if there's someone there who's meant to be the god of piano teaching, we're going to scream abuse at that person, saying they're not doing a very good job about teaching you. It's just nuts what we do, but we don't understand that a child is only 8 once, 12 once, 16 once. And once those 365 days of a year of that particular phase of their life is gone, you don't get it back. And remember this, it's their lives, not ours, their lives.
Amen. So, yeah, and that's one point I actually do want to make too, because from a coaching standpoint, we did a seminar a couple months ago and it was brought up, and this is some support for you guys as coaches too, and some understanding for parents. We were talking about just even team dynamics and how, when you look at, and football is a great example, they usually have offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators, and they have special teams. And then you have your coach that's like a master psychologist. And usually as parents, and I'm guilty of it too, going into whether it's volleyball, soccer, or anything else, we expect our coach to be every one of those, like the master psychologist, the master offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. And, we're these guys are having full-time jobs and everything else. So as parents, please understand too, like the coaches are doing the best job they possibly can. And they're usually going to be more proficient in one area or the other. Some are great at tactics, some are great at skills coaching, some are great at motivation and psychology. You'd be a unicorn if you could do all of them. And it doesn't exist even at the pro level. But a lot of times our expectations as parents are like, well, they're just not coaching these guys right, or they're not doing the skills right, or they're not doing the systems right, not running the bench right. Gosh, it is not easy. And the coaches are definitely stepping up to be those heroes and trying to do the best job they can. And then on the coaching side too, understanding, if I'm really good at one area, I should be hopefully finding another coach that can help me in other areas. But one thing that I've seen a lot of, especially around here too, is just people losing their mind on the coaches. And it's like, that comes down to the culture standpoint too. I will say, we've, and you guys again have a great community. It's so intertwined. You guys know each other, and you're probably most of the family members and relatives. So it's a pretty intense group that you guys know each other so well. But really, the biggest thing from a success standpoint too is just making sure the coaches have support, bringing them a coffee every once in a while, just saying thanks for taking the time and really doing what you're doing. The great news is now all the support and the curriculum and everything else, and we've brought it down to 3 practices. Like it's been tried, tested, and true, but we've really tried to simplify this, and simplifying it is not easy. Oddly enough, it's really easy to make things complicated. It takes a lot of work to make things simple. And the more support that we can get from the parents, the more support that we have for the coaches. Unfortunately, a lot of good coaches and good board members and good families get pushed out of sports too, because they're trying to do the right thing. And anytime you do see people, that are giving coaches a rough go, like we have I'm sure you guys have heard of the 24-hour rule. So we've taken that a little bit further. So we have, at the start of the year, we kind of walk everyone around, and it's not trying to be rude or anything else. It's trying to help each other as much as we can. But, we usually say, if you're worried about who's playing with who or which teams have been selected, how the practices are running and things like that, anything hockey related, write it down, wait 24 hours, and then just go throw it in the garbage. And don't even worry about it. Like anything hockey wise, leave that up to the coach and the players. Like teach the players, if they've got a problem with the coach, to talk to them and see how that goes and start to build those life skills. I would say from a life standpoint, and this is where, and Steve has been there for me and I've been there for him. Like if anything happens life-wise, death in the family, man, that's the time to reach out to the coach right away. And I guarantee they'll be the first ones at your door. But giving them the freedom and as Steve said, like waiting, realize that you've got years here to deal with, not weeks or months, like years on the development side. But supporting each other that way. And we're all dealing with a lot as parents. I mean, there's a ton of stress being a parent. It's the hardest job going. So everyone's in the same boat, and make sure you're not taking things that are happening in your life too out on the coach or out on the kids. One thing we've been working on a lot of this year is emotional control, and we'll call it emotional intelligence, but not flying off the handle. We hope to teach that to the kids. As adults, we can't be on the bench yelling and screaming at the kids, and we can't be in the parents in the stands yelling and screaming and coming unglued, because then the kids see that and they just think that that's a normal way to react. And it takes work. It takes, it's an emotional game. But the more as we can act as adults and be in control, we can show that to kids, and there's going to be, you guys know this game's emotional. When you see your son or daughter get hit from behind or things like that, it's not an easy thing to do. But staying in control, supporting the kids, supporting the coaches. Hopefully we can use this model and get more and more comfortable with it too. So you guys applying it to lacrosse or to basketball or to wrestling or some of these other activities. Hopefully it's going to be making a great difference in your world. You're going to know there's rest and recovery built in. You're going to know there's set schedules. Some of the competitions, we would love to have you guys here and for us to even come up there. I think it'd be so cool. But I think once we start to build out more communities as well, it's going to be really easy to do more competition in the right way. And having this structure where, again, it is a new culture that we're building, and you guys are as important as any player and any coach. As parents, you guys play a massive role. But the more support that you can give everyone that's doing it, and even the board members, the poor board members, and I've been on boards, just volunteering 10 to 20 hours a week to just get yelled at it's not a great. I don't know, it's not an easy role. And the more times that you can support each other that way, I think is amazing. I've seen great support in your community already, though, from the little time that I have spent there. I'm really looking forward to doing more with you guys, and also know that you have us as a resource. Like Steve is one of the most approachable guys, as mean as he may sound. He's got a heart that is massive, and he is one of the most, we want to see everybody be successful here. And there's a lot of good resources. And if you're struggling, and you will, there's going to be challenges. But the more we pull together and the more we act as adults, the better this thing's gonna go. So that's really all we had for you. I apologize, we did go kind of over, and listen, for Steve and I just to talk this short is amazing. But why don't we open it up, Raj? If you want to have any questions, guys, feel free. This is the time to do it. And listen, we don't have all the answers. This is just stuff that we've learned. I will say that over the last 8 years that I've been doing this, I've learned more in the last 8 years from taking a collaborative approach instead of a competitive approach. I've learned more in the last 8 years than I've learned my whole life, and it's been so much fun. And we just continue to meet great people like yourselves. And this thing is, everybody has a different background, and I've talked to Jody about this quite a bit too, but it's like, I love learning from other coaches. So this is where we're at. We're pretty confident that we're on the right path, but we're always open to learn. So, but if you do have any questions, by all means, why don't we open it up?
For sure. Awesome. Thanks so much, guys. Brad, Stephen. Also the coaches that have joined us today. We've got Ricky and Blair and Jody and Josh, and a number of them, and the parents that are come out tonight and have been coming out every week during the week and on weekends. It's been a really interesting year, and we've learned a lot. And I think we're not going to get it perfect on the first go. I really, and I want to apologize that we didn't do this session at the start of the season. September, October was a bit of a gong show for us in the coaching side and the leadership side. It was just, it's nuts, but I promise you we'll do this on a regular basis. So that's it for me. Anybody that has any questions for either Brad or Stephen, there's a raise your hand icon. I saw Josh had his hand up. I'm not sure if that was a mistake or if you still had a question, Josh, but yeah, anybody else, go for it.
Come on, guys, there's got to be something.
Gotta have something.
What have been some of the, I would say, what have been some of the highlights for you guys this year? Outside of coaches being able to knock down the kids and call that development.
Yeah,
How
that was
about
one of my favorites.
Ricky or yeah,
That was one of my
you've been
favorites,
on
knocking down the
front line
kids,
here.
and knocking down the kids was definitely good. I think I've never done that before, so showing them the hockey stance that way was really really good. I think, yeah, really liked that. And at first I was like, I don't know, it looks a little bit harsh, but like,
Yeah.
you know,
Well,
they got around to it and they figured it out, right? So
yeah, and it is fun, and they've got great equipment on there, but they got to learn how to trust it too. And falling down is a big part of it, but getting back up is you guys know that's a huge theme for us. There's usually three things we have this talk almost daily, but it's like there's three options. You can either sit there and cry and wait for your mom, you can blame everyone else, yell at the referee, or you can get back up. And we're just hammering kids on just get back up. And we've got some great examples too. And on our adaptive side, and it's really fun having those guys around, because those guys have been not only knocked down, but they've had their legs knocked off and they still find a way to get up. And they're great examples to have around, and they're really tough to complain around, those guys too. But that's also another element that we've talked about as well. And but there's some really cool adaptive sports that we do that kind of builds in the culture as well, and understanding that, you know, just everyone can be an athlete, no matter how many arms or legs you have. But there's some great life lessons that come in there too. Sledge hockey, we're really big on sledge hockey. We've got a program here with the Flames and the Oilers, and we're trying to get one actually with the Canucks now too. But we bring kids out, so it doesn't matter if they're in wheelchairs or able-bodied, and they jump in sleds, and they all suck at it. But they fall down a lot too, and we tell the coaches and the volunteers and the teachers specifically, it's like, you have to let them get up on their own. And it's awesome, because their confidence starts to build. They start to believe in themselves. And I think that's the one metric we'll never be able to measure with our program, and it's one of the most important, is just the kids' confidence. I think the confidence level after a couple of years becomes so good. And I will tell you one last story too, just about my kids. So I got 4 kids. They all went through AMP. And I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but none of them play hockey. One guy was trying to be on the Olympic track for snowboarding. I've got a daughter playing Division I beach volleyball. I've got another son playing Division II field lacrosse. And then I've got a younger 16-year-old that is trying to go after a beach volleyball scholarship as well. All of my kids, as you can imagine, played a lot of sports growing up. And they were all shit on all the time. Excuse my language. They were all shit on all the time because they weren't committed, like to play 12 months of soccer or to play 12 months of lacrosse. They've always been middle to bottom of the pack. Because they were playing other sports, and there's a lot of challenges for parents here. That's what makes it really tough too. There's just a lot of pressure to do things. And my kids, have been healthy and happy, and they're still getting better. They still have a ton of potential, even at 18 and 19. And they've done really well in school, which is something, we try and do really well at all the things that take no talent. So showing up on time, sitting at the front of class, doing extra homework, being coachable, being a good teammate. And it's amazing how important that is. It'll outwork and outbeat talent every single time. Hard work just crushes it. And but it's really fun to see, because you guys know, as parents, it's a social experiment. It's a complete experiment whether the kids are going to turn out or not. But I can tell you that after going through this, like I said, this is really my 4th generation of doing all this. Man, it works out well. And it's not 100%, but we're pretty darn close. And it's really good for building love of sport and love of their community. And I really hope that this can be a catalyst for your community, because you guys have something really special there. You have unbelievable history in that area. I think you guys have led in so many different ways. That community has been the epicenter for this continent for 15,000 years. And I think to have this program and this leadership come out of that valley, that community is, I think it's amazing. And we're really honored. I know Steve and we've talked about this, but we're honored to be part of it, and we're honored to help. And if there is anything that we can do, like you said, give us a shout, send us an email. If you have questions, or if you're, if you're wondering why the heck we're doing things so slow or why we're doing things so basic, there's good reason behind it. So just give the coaches some support, maybe some coffee every once in a while, pat on the back, and this thing should work out great. And one other aspect, and I'm sure you guys already do this anyway, because you guys are such a tight-knit community. We don't have that really here in Calgary, but we started an AMP Angels network. And it's basically a bunch of moms. Anytime that life goes sideways, we go in there for a couple of weeks and we make lunches for the kids and bring over meals. And usually 2 weeks is a good period. We have gone for a month. One gentleman blew out his back, and then we had another mom who actually had cancer, and her husband walked out on her. Like, there's life issues that happen that are a lot bigger than sports. And I know you guys already do this as a community, but yeah, the more that you can build communities and things like that, and realize that sports is just a vehicle, hockey's just a vehicle, but it's a fun one if you do it right. It's amazing. So,
Awesome.
my kudos to you guys. We love being part of this. If we can get the lacrosse going, we should know in the next week or two. But hopefully you guys sign up for that. Even if your kids have never played lacrosse, doesn't matter. It's a great format. They're going to have a ton of fun. They're going to touch the ball. And it's a tough sport. I wish I played more of it growing up, but it's an unbelievable cross training sport. And if you're lucky enough, like my son, just got a full scholarship to go play in Pittsburgh for 4 years and get his whole education paid for playing the sport. I mean, we were watching beach volleyball the weekend, and I was laughing with my wife that, most people have to work a normal job and pay student loans and do things, and my daughter gets to play beach volleyball to pay for her college. And man, is that fun, and be part of a team and do all these amazing things. But she had a great base, and then she found her path, and keeping grades up, that'll be a next one too. We want to really instill in these kids that showing up to class and making sure grades are being done can open up so many doors. And gosh, it's really cool too, because I'll tell you sorry to go off topic on this, but the education piece. Like our kids now applying to NCAA schools, they're giving them almost a 9% bump because the curriculum is so much better here than it is in the US, which is incredible. So like an 85% average or a 75, jumps up almost 10 points when you're applying to US schools. So, if they just show up and they just do the work that was asked of them and they just hand in the homework that it's asked, they'll usually be in that 80% range. They do a little bit more, they might be in the 85s. If you get an 85 or higher here in Canada, man, you're a 4.0 student as far as the US goes. So showing up is a big one. And just doing what the teacher is asking you to do is amazing. And doing a little bit more, even better. But the academic piece will be a big one too, and there's nothing that's going to hurt you with a good education. So that's only going to open up doors. But that's part of some of the smartest athletes. It's amazing. You'd think that hockey players are knuckleheads, but in the NCAA, the hockey players are year after year the smartest, like highest GPAs out of all the NCAA athletes, which is incredible. But they really like smart hockey players. And
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Brad, I'm wondering, I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but I'm going to. I'm just wondering, Josh, like you've done a lot of work with the U7 kids this year. And I didn't see Robin's on, and I'm hoping Blair is on with Robin. But Josh, can you just kind of give us a little bit of a taste of what your experience has been with this AMP program over the last few months? You still with us, Josh?
Hey, sorry there. Can you hear me?
Oh,
Yep.
You betcha, man.
Yeah, no, it's been really good adding the game day for on the Sundays with the gym time. I was gonna ask, I put my hand up by mistake there, just pressing buttons. But I was gonna ask, in Calgary, do you guys have the gym time the same day as hockey?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We tried doing it during the week, but it was just too late on the school nights. And it really worked out well on the weekends, just do it back to back. And whether that's before or after, like we've had both just because of scheduling, but it seems to work better even after the games. But even before it wasn't bad because it's a good warm up. But trying to get it back to back and get 4 sessions on really 3 days of work for parents was a big one. Like we wanted to make sure it wasn't a whole nother day or a whole other night. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was kind of the design aspect there.
It's been good, and then just having like the game on the weekend. It's like we haven't gone to tournaments this year. I know a lot of families have gone to tournaments, but it's been a huge travel savings for us in general, and just knowing that there.
Yeah. Well, and that's, like I said, we run a Star Wars tournament here where kids are dressed up like Star Wars characters. And it's so funny because a lot of people have said to us and criticized us that, oh, it's not even real hockey. And I'm like, kids are crying. Like, and they're going at it as hard as they can. And there's no way if you spent 30 minutes in those environments. And like even running a tournament though, for you guys, it's the easiest thing to do. And one thing that we do as well is we don't tell the kids, but we mix up the teams just to mentally screw with them some more and challenge them. So you guys, like most kids know everything. Everything's so structured and everything else. We do it where we just mix up all the teams so they get a chance to play with other kids too. And then, they're either team Chewbacca or Vader. We don't tell them until the day of. And then we give them their jerseys. They go on their teams. And then they have to come together pretty quick if they're going to win. And there's only one trophy. So it's just good life lessons, you know what I mean, around it. But it's exciting. It's hilarious to see the jerseys. We've got a great jersey guy that did your jerseys as well. But we've got Star Wars themes, and then we have a superheroes one too, which is kind of cool. But just making, and we got criticized for that, like because traditionalists are like, that's not real hockey. Like you can't have fun with the game. And I saw a basketball league in Denver, like a church league that did this, and it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. And we implemented it here. And then we had some parents that are part of an actors guild that they dress up like Star Wars characters, and they're like, we can come to the rink and just walk around. And I'm like, all day. I think this year we had like 30 Star Wars characters because I guess you don't get to wear those costumes very often. So, to have an opportunity to wear it was a great thing. And the kids, like, when they're 4 and 5, oh my God, they see a Chewbacca, like they think that's absolutely real. But it's a lot of fun, and you should have fun with the game. Like it doesn't have to be all about the outcome and all about the wins and losses. It can actually be about having a great time. And shockingly, kids that have a good time in sports usually stay in sports. And as we're seeing from the results, it's really good. And then from the parent standpoint, listen, you don't need to travel every freaking weekend or every other weekend. You know what I mean? To go down and one of the best things that happened to us actually in our second year here, we brought a team down to Ohio because we couldn't play anyone here. And we just threw it out there. We're like, listen, we'll take like 15 kids and we'll play in a tournament. And it was funny because we were sanctioned for a little while, and I won't go into it, but then they unsanctioned us again because for whatever reason they're threatened by us here. And then, so we couldn't play in a tournament. And then we just reached out to a couple teams, but we structured it. Then we actually went to a Columbus Blue Jackets game. Then we went to Ohio State. We did like a college visit, unofficial visit with, 10-year-olds, but I knew the coaches there. So we went and watched a college game. Then we played some exhibition games. And the emphasis was never on the wins or losses. The host teams were like having pizza parties for us after. It was like the most enjoyable tournament weekend we've ever had. And it wasn't at a tournament. And I think the game can really use a facelift, if that's a good way of putting it. But if we can actually remember what the heck we're doing and why we're doing it, that's a great start. But supporting each other, parents supporting each other. 95% of people in hockey are amazing people, but there is 5% that should be shown the door, and that's usually what we're trying to help with is opening that door for those people, because they're really ruining it for the other 95% of us. And there's some amazing people. And I think hockey is one of the best communities, and I've been involved in a lot of them. But like I said, what you guys are doing up there, though, unbelievable. I can't thank you enough. I wish I could reach through and give you all a hug. But keep it going. Like you're doing amazing things, and the fact that you threw it together as quick as you did. Please remember, it took us 8 years, at least 7, to figure it out. And then you guys are just starting, but you're going to do so much better than what we did, because you're not going to have to go through 3 or 4 years of nonsense, or dealing with BC Hockey or Hockey Canada, or the challenges here have been pretty astronomical. But thankfully, Steve and I don't care if people like us or not, and we just keep pounding. I'll give you a great example with Steve. So he was a high performance director with Hockey Canada, and they called him in as soon as we announced this whole thing with AMP, and they literally gave him an ultimatum. It's like, listen, and this is a paid position. He's unfortunately not paid with us, but they're like, pick one, AMP or Hockey Canada, and he was like, easy, all day. I've been telling you once for 20 years you should be doing this stuff. There's no way I can't go and support this. There's no way. And it's amazing that he's here. It's amazing that people have stepped up, but we got to keep this thing rolling. And the more support we can give, the better. Tim, Raj, all these guys, like, we're going to try and get you guys as much support as we possibly can. And we're going to try and really make this something that not just the rest of BC likes, but the rest of the country and probably the rest of the world that just sees this as the catalyst. And I like using the bottom man on the totem pole. I hope you guys are okay with that. Love that. Like,
it's the foundation. We got a hand up here, Brad. Calvin has a question or a comment.
Yeah, Brad,
Go for it,
I just
Calvin.
wanted to say, well, we've been to the Calgary tournament and the Edmonton tournament.
Yeah.
And absolutely loved it. And I just want to say kudos to the coaches, because especially for the U7 and the U9, the one difference that I've seen is that the amount of kids that you guys have and the levels that they are pretty much on the equal playing level, and it makes it so enjoyable to watch, right? And our coaches in Hazelton here have been doing a phenomenal job, because we don't have the clientele and we got a wide variety of skill.
Yeah. And
they've been leveling things out to where the kids really enjoy it, which I'm really proud of the coaches for that. But I guess my question to you is, how do you guys maintain the skill level in regards to whether you're U7, U9, are bumped up to U13 or whatever, right? So that everybody is kind of playing in the same level that they should be in.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And quite honestly, that's where the coaching, and you guys have done a great job of it. It's just matching lines. Like, we've done it where we have even sledge hockey players on our teams, like a whole line of sledge players. But we really, the interesting thing is kids, and you guys know, you have kids, but you can have a 3-year buffer. Like a 10-year-old could really look like a 7-year-old or like a 13-year-old. But you can have about a 6-year gap with kids. And when you stop looking at calendar dates and just have experience be the kind of the guiding principle, and again, put the child first. It's like, okay, where is this child at from an experience level? And some kids really thrive going up. Some are terrified, and it actually works against you. So it really, that's where, knowing the kid and just trying it and having the flexibility, like, that's the beauty of this program is, Like it was such a blessing to be banned by Hockey Canada because we don't have to do anything. We don't have to do anything on their moronic rules. Like we could, if a kid comes in and is just learning, well, they should be with kids that are just learning. You know what I mean? And if we're a kid that's actually really excelling and likes being challenged and can play up to competition, well, we move them up. And it's like, I don't know, it's that simplicity component. Like it's the simpler you can make it for the kids, and it doesn't have to be at a certain point of the year even. Like we have kids that come in that are just learning how to skate, and by Christmas time, man, they're ready to jump up a level. Do you know what I mean? And as long as there's room on the team, like we never go past 9 players, but we've been pretty lucky as far as scheduling wise, and it's just worked out unbelievably well. But matching the lines and then just going on experience in the game rather than calendar birth year has been really helpful. And I obviously we're kind of biased to this program, but for kids under 12, and we listen, even here, like 2 weeks ago, and Steve knows this, we had a coach who was like, I think we should do some full ice drills here. And I was like, oh, really? Are they 6 feet tall now? Or have they mastered all their individual skills? Because like one of the two has to have happened. But if they've mastered every single one of their fundamental skills, or they've all magically grown to 6 feet tall, then we shouldn't have that in our conversation ever. Because the dimensions don't even work. Like you'll never, like a 9-year-old will never play. That'd be like playing on Lake Superior. Like you would never play on a surface that big ever in your life. So why would you train on it? Like, and again, I'm just looking at it not as a hockey guy, but like in soccer, you would never see a 5-year-old playing on a full-size international field, with 20-foot nets. It'd be crazy. But yet, in hockey, we're like, dude, that's real hockey. No, it's not. It's never even, that'll never even exist at any point in their life ever. So why waste that 1 year when they're 9 or when they're 10? And like Steve said, you can't go back. And those are development windows that are so critical. And man, we just need to, it's like we have to be way more serious about that, but at the same time have way more fun with it. So it's a real balancing act. But doing things that are based in experience and in research are really good. Doing things that are based on opinion that are completely unfounded and just I don't know, and training kids like adults is just a really horrible thing to do, just because their brains and bodies need to be protected. And I think finding formats, that's why we're so excited about doing this with lacrosse, and we've done it with basketball as well. But like, I think this model really works, and you can implement whatever your primary sport is, but just again, focusing on the fundamentals, whether it's running or skating, whether it's dribbling a basketball or stick handling. Like all these fundamentals have to be mastered, and it's the best time. Like whether it's sports or it's music or it's languages, like those before you're 12, man, those are the best years you can possibly do this kind of stuff. So then it's like, take the pressure off you guys as parents too. It's like, all right, we don't have to travel around the province. We can actually just enjoy our time. We can even go skiing or mountain biking or fishing on the weekend. And we can sit back and know that we're actually doing better than 99% of the other people and communities that are out there. And take the pressure off yourselves. Like you're actually doing more by doing less right now. So just give yourselves a pat on the back and give the coach a coffee again, because they're going to need that. They're probably tired. But those things are, it's really important, guys. And we're obviously passionate about it, but it's, our kids are really important, and our future is really important, and our communities have to get better, and our countries, our communities across the country are just fractured right now, and sports is a great tool to bring everyone back together. And what you guys are doing is amazing, and we want to see other communities follow you guys.
Sure. Does anybody else have any questions? I know a few are starting to fade off here as far attendance goes. Okay.
No questions from us. I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time to do this, and we've really enjoyed the last hour and a bit here listening to you guys explain, and we appreciate that we've been given the opportunity to have this program in Hazelton, and it's been awesome and lots of learning, and this was super helpful for me. I never played hockey, so I don't understand. I'm literally the parent that's like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
But you're like, it's just so good to see, and I love your vision of like there's things outside of hockey, which I'm always trying to push, and I love that's supported, and that's actually a good thing of, you know, broaden all the activities for the kids, and I love that you know, your kids may not be playing hockey, but you've succeeded because they're still playing sports and they're having fun, and that's the whole purpose of it. So
Yeah.
thank you.
All right, guys. Well, thanks again. And Raj, I'll send you, we did record this, so we'll send a file for any of the parents that do need it. And again, like you said, by all means, if you have any questions, guys, feel free to reach out. I know some of the coaches have, which is awesome, but use us as a resource, and we're here to help.
Awesome. Thanks,
All right,
everyone. I really appreciate everyone coming out tonight.
All right. Have a great night.
Yeah, you too,
Thank you,
Brad.
guys.
Thanks again.
Yes.
Thank you so much.